Who's Minister for Arts, Heritage and the Gaeltacht. Minister.
Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here this evening with Dublin Civic Trust, and I have admired your work over a number of years. The late Knight of Lynn was a great admirer of yours, and he often spoke about you and referred to the great work you've been doing with very little subvention from government or other sources. And I know that you were established back in 1992, then with just £50,000 pounds at that stage from the then Minister, Michael Smith. And since then, you've had major successes. I suppose the main thing, you succeeded in saving at least 10 buildings from demolition, including this one here, and also influencing, no doubt, architectural policy in this country to a considerable extent. Now, I'm in charge of implementing government policy in architecture 2009-2015. There are 45 recommendations, and the government has completed 20 of those and 25 to go. But you were one of the expert panels, especially on heritage, and certainly Martin Kilreevy and others would say that you have made a very, very important contribution to not only implementing government policy, but also towards helping the department with the inventory on the really important buildings of this city. And we're very fortunate really to be living in a very, very precious city with really some architectural gems. Now, not an architect or anything like that, but like all of you, I appreciate something that's special. And if you look at Dublin, there are so many, I suppose, examples of architecture from different periods, different eras, dating right back to the 17th century, to the mid-17th century, and then obviously continuing very much so in the 18th century, and really flourishing, I suppose, in the 19th century, and continuing since. But could I say probably our best architecture was probably in the 18th and 19th century in this city. And you know, we've made a lot of mistakes, unfortunately, in this present century. But certainly, I think now it's given us an opportunity to take stock, maybe to look at buildings in a different light, and also to look at the very, very precious built heritage that has been passed on to us, and that we've all, I suppose, an obligation and a duty to protect and to ensure that they're there for future generations. Just last week, I was up in Mountjoy Square, and in one particular building there, I was launching actually a CD on the old music halls, and it's for the local development group in Mountjoy Square, and they are doing a tremendous job there. I didn't realise that 1,400 people actually live in Mountjoy Square, and that particular building, owned by Garrett Fennell, is really a remarkable building. You're aware of it, yeah. And I'm sure there are so many more buildings like that in Mountjoy Square alone. So, as I say, we've a very, very, I suppose, exciting city from an architectural point of view, and it has attracted a lot of attention to from architects all over the world. Unfortunately, Dublin didn't win the City of Design.
Nearly did.
Nearly did. There's always next year. But I think that we're in a very strong position to go forward. And just on my way in here, I was greeted, no doubt, by Jolene Welsh, who's done such a tremendous job, and by Graham Hickey and Stephen Kine, who gave me an explanation of what I'm launching here. Yeah. But also I met with Brian Barber, a young man, graduate of UCD, together with his 4 colleagues. They've done an excellent job here, and he gave me a great insight into what they have achieved. They have looked at 4 spaces, and as you know, I suppose the description of the project is looked at 4 spaces, and they have suggestions for those 4 spaces. One is creating a kind of an amphitheatre at Crampton Court there, between the Olympia and the Project Theatre, so that you could have scaffolding erected and have an amphitheatre for the summer months, where you could have performances outdoors and so on. In a very cheap way, you could do this for about €10,000, according to Brian. Which I don't dispute that. But it's certainly very exciting, and Brian was telling me that their whole, I suppose, the whole philosophy of what they're trying to do, really, what they're trying to achieve, is to do, build creatively using cheap materials in this challenging time for our country. What Brian is basically saying is that you can build something very special and very creative, and you can use quite cheap materials. And that's what he's trying to achieve, and certainly for any of you that would want to look, it's quite interesting, and Brian, he explains it very well. And with him there's Emily Conway, Dominic Lavelle, Joe Swan and Jamie Young, and I'm sure all you people are all here tonight. So I'd just like to congratulate him for the great effort that you've made, and also for just challenging us in a way with what you're proposing. And I also like the idea of this hanging garden. Now, I was a history teacher for a brief period before I went into politics, and I always remember teaching the hanging gardens of Dublin, and this is based on kind of that principle, influenced by it to some extent maybe, but it's basically trying to put gardens into a city, into an urban setting where people can still enjoy, be it flower gardens or vegetable gardens, but it can be done quite cheaply, and also it can be removed again at any time. Again, through scaffolding as well. So both of those, and then Munro Yard is certainly very interesting as well, where there's a major space there there was no school there at one stage, and he's come up with some very creative ideas as well for using that space. That wouldn't be too expensive either. So just recognise the very creative work you did there, and the man says, and I've said this a number of times, because the budget that I have in my little department, which is the smallest of all the departments, has been cut savagely. But when you have no money, Rutherford said, you have to think. So we've been challenged in this country at the moment to think differently, to do things differently, and certainly that's what you're suggesting here with your project. Now, just see Dublin on foot, and that is the app. I've launched an app earlier on this year called Culture Fox, and some of you may have that there, but that was very successful. And certainly a number of people, there are very few things that people would ever comment on or say well done or whatever, but certainly people recognize Culture Fox as being very, very useful. So this is something like Culture Fox, see Dublin on foot. And I remember when Julia Craig brought out her book some years ago, it's a book that I always try to get for visitors coming to Dublin. And I would say that I bought several copies of that, because if somebody came to Dublin, that was really the Bible. That's what you gave them, and people thought it was very useful. So now what have you've really done in this? You've more or less digitized it, and you brought it to life in a different way. And on this here behind me, there are 300 different buildings, spaces, places, and you can look at this actually from your home in Japan or Australia or whatever, and you can go through Dublin here without coming to Dublin. So hopefully, and you can go into
That's not the intention. Or else the video render the next one we have down here.
It's all about convenience now, isn't it? But certainly you can get a great insight to Dublin from any part of the world, and hopefully then that people will come and feel and get the experience of our great city. But not alone when you're travelling around Dublin, if after 5, when most places close, you can still look at that building and you can get inside the building on your app. And also, if you want to get more information, you can go on to a website. So it's all inclusive, it's all through modern technology. So, Professor, no doubt, modern technology is a long way from where you started so many years ago, but it certainly makes things very easy.
With a piece of chalk on a board.
Well, maybe that time you were a lot more creative, but anyway, it's all done for us now. But certainly it's very exciting, and when you go to other cities in the world nowadays, most of them Barcelona and elsewhere, for example, this is the, I suppose, convenience that you get there, and people expect that. So I would like just to compliment the Trust on this very good initiative. It's going to help heritage in this city. It's going to help our awareness, definitely, of the built heritage in a major way. Because, let's face it, not everybody is an expert in architecture or wouldn't have the knowledge of placing a building, whether it was Georgian or Edwardian or Victorian or whatever period. And certainly this app will do that. So I'm just delighted to be here with you and just say to Trust, any way I can help you, and as long as I'm in this job, certainly would be very willing to help you. I understand that you were in my department recently, looking for a share of lottery funds, which no doubt you should have got.
I said there weren't exchequer funds, so
No,
could look for them.
But certainly we have to have an ongoing conversation
Absolutely.
while I'm in this job.
Yeah. Thank you very
And,
much.
I was,
Appreciate that.
as you know, I was always very much influenced, like so many more of you, by Desmond Fitzgerald. It's just unfortunate. He would like to be around now because he had direct access to the ministry, and he would be able to certainly be heard anyway and be listened to. He may not have been in the past.
Shared interest.
Shared interest, that's it. So anyway, he's a great loss to Ireland, I must say, and to his family and to Glen and so on. So anyway, I just declare both of them now launched. And you have really two very good products here. And just congratulations on what you have achieved. So thank you all very much.
Thanks, Charlie. That was fantastic. I have to go, but I'd have to come back and talk to you.